Welcome back to Universe X, and today we are going to get back on the roll of content creation. I'm in the new place, everything's pretty much set up, and so all I gotta really do is unpack, but no more of these like get up to go to work, get off of work, pack, drive over after work, and then unpack, because that was definitely taking away a lot of energy from everything else. But now that we're back on the roll, let's get things started. We're still on the road to 1K. We are almost there. We got lots of stuff to get into. Now that I'm unpacked, I'm going to be shipping out all of the little, prizes for the past giveaway. But we're also at this point about to get to the next set, and I'm going to be doing giveaway on that. So I apologize for how late this came out. I really, honestly, have just been like swamped. The past like month and change has been bad. So that being said, if you like the content, think about giving it a like, comment with your opinions. If you like the content, subscribe to the channel. We're gonna keep going. We've got a lot of stuff planned for 1K and beyond. So for this video, we're gonna be talking about the splash that set 14 makes. I already gave you guys my like top 8 picks of cards, and I explained why. But I think to start this topic off, we have to go into the fact that, I said fact, more like opinion, my least analysis, going into set 14, before set 14 dropped and the ban list, dropped. Going into the set, I would think it'd be safe to say that red and black were the most dominant colors, with a couple of options in outside colors. Like, Mecha Frieza, very strong, able to be played very well. High skill cap, but very good results when you actually know how to play it. You've got Sin Shinron, that deck was also good. Baby deck was also still good. So you have just decks sprinkle around, but when you go to black, you can play Vegex, you could play Xenogogeta, you could play Dark Broly. All three of these decks were viable and very strong. They both overlap, or all three of them overlap in terms of what pieces you can use. And then when you go to red, red, you have literally King Vegeta, you have King Piccolo. You were able to, if you so chose, Mecha made it too hard to play, but Red Broly hasn't lost any steam. It's just Mecha is a natural predator to that deck. But like, both red and black had a lot of colors, or had a lot of decks that you could play very well in the format within them. And moving into set 14, I don't necessarily think that changed. Like, now that we had the ban list happen, Vegex is naturally slower by its leader effect. Dark Broly isn't slower, but Dark Broly can't defend itself as well. So you're going to be open to a lot more turn 3 and 4 like crackbacks that you never would have been open to the same way before. And going wider infinitely hurts the deck a lot more. They've got to start allotting more space to defense, which is going to naturally decrease combo power as well as their ability to pop off. As well as Heartfelt Plea being limited to 1. Now, granted, that card was in and out of people's decks already. Some people are already playing at 1, but it still can't hurt consistency if you were comfortable with 2. Then you have, like, in red, we got rid of, we limited Drum, which is going to hurt King Piccolo's defensive capabilities a lot, but New Ruler wasn't touched. So you're going to have a lot of options for red come next format. With the inclusion of this set, I'm just going to kind of go through some of the deck lists, and not deck lists, but deck types, and kind of go from there. We're going to start with black. Xeno Sin Shinron. That deck has a lot of cool plays, and we still have yet to do our archetype breakdown on it. We will. But while this deck has a lot of good plays, it can't exist in the same format as Dark Broly. As long as Dark Broly is playable, you have an instant loss matchup, and that's not the way. Most of the cards mill your opponent. You have a negate that if you play it, the Oceana Shinron SR, you could get killed that turn by Dark Broly because you were literally just giving them the fuel. It gets really, really rough to play at an event where Dark Broly may still be there. And a lot of people are still trying to make sure that Dark Broly works. And to be honest, Dark Broly still can work, simply because, like I said, its offense wasn't changed, it was its defense. So if you couldn't survive to the crackback against Dark Broly in the first place, you're probably dying to them still. So that's a huge factor. Moving right along past that, you got the green decks, Majin Buu and Videl. Videl draws a lot. Videl can combo a fair amount, But at the same time, no matter which unison you use, both unisons are kind of on the weaker side, and Videl is still in those 5k that flips to 10k leaders. And that's going to make it so that, you know, a lot of other cards can push neutral against it that shouldn't be able to, or, you know, normally wouldn't be on another leader. So while Videl is one of those where we're gonna have to wait and see, she already kind of gives me like a little bit of pause just looking at the way she's like mechanically built. Now that being said, she is fun to use, so that might be my locals deck. When you go on to Majin Buu has a lot of cute cards. And I think it's Buu tanks that can protect itself with a token, makes a lot of interesting interactions. My only issue is I'm not sure if that makes green good enough. Green's getting a lot of defensive capabilities. I mean, Dormant never left, but we're getting a green topo now. So that might be enough to have it stay in the game. And as we saw with Go Tanks, if you just have enough cards to not let you die, it's pretty easy to just focus the rest of your deck on offense, like green Go Tanks. You know, Dormant, Shocking Death Ball really kept that deck in line, along with Charismatic. Meanwhile, you just paid 2 energy for your best plays of Go Tanks and just kind of pressed your opponent until you can get Xenos out. Now, some of those cards aren't in the format anymore, but I definitely think that green is in a weird space where between Dormant, the green topo, your negates, as well as the fact that you now have an SER that can steal your opponent's unison and cut off their way of playing if they're unison centric, this actually might be a just color that can still just kind of, as long as you have the right defensive frame, you can play whatever offense you want. So we should look out for that. Green still has a little bit more potential that I think hasn't been tapped, and I think people that are very adept with green are going to find this out very easily next format. When it comes to yellow, I am almost going to skip over Super 17. As much as I like the archetype, it's a little slow. It does have a great amount of searching, like all your cards get all your cards, but it's a little bit slow. And the piece with barrier is only a 9,000 attack. Now granted, or power, you can get that out on turn 1, so I understand why they didn't want it to be like a 15k or higher. But a lot of things that ignore barrier either go for an obscene amount of minus, or they go for a low amount of minus because it's ignoring barrier. And that low amount is 10k, lots of times. Sometimes 15k. If this guy was just a 16k attacker, I know that'd be a lot for turn 1, but I think this deck can use it because you don't do too much on turn 2 and 3 with this deck. It's a lot of turn 4 Super 17. So I kind of wish this was 16 just so people couldn't just Wolfang fist it off the board when you think it's safe. Well, I mean, I guess you're never going to attack with it, but there are some other cards that will minus 15 through barrier, and I just wish that this was a little bit tougher so you can stick it on board. Other than that, your top end doesn't really have much protection, so you're kind of open to the elements there. 17, I don't really think is strong enough to make like a meta splash, so to speak. Now you get to top coup, hell coup, whatever you want to call it. I also think this is kind of in the same boat. I think this is actually in the same boat as Dark Broly was in set 11 when it released. It has a really nice mechanic and a lot of ways to stack it up, but it's just missing a little bit. Most of the things that come off for free can't swing. So you have a lot of blockers, you have a couple of combo extenders, but the things that can swing cost 1 energy, and that's fair, but we probably need one more card that can swing. Either a free 15k or, like, you know, another 20k for 1 energy, because as it stands, sometimes you can have a massive board and no way to press your opponent, and that doesn't feel good. And now that Xeno Cell is out of the game the way it is, you can't just turn your useless board into a 40,000 quadruple strike. So I think the deck needs a little bit more before we consider it actually like, meta threatening or anything, like even owning a space at the table. Moving on to blue, I think both Hirudegarn and Trunks aren't there yet. They're generic. Well, the Hirudegarn deck is very archetype specific, and so you're limited by the cards they've already printed plus the new cards, and they have a lot of interesting interactions, but with a lot of cards that don't have protection and you having to actually play the game pretty much on like good standards, like you're actually playing your energy. It's nothing accelerating in that deck. I don't think Hirudegarn is that great outside of its leader. I think the cards have a lot of like room where they can be added onto, but that's why we have theme boosters, that's why we have expansion sets. I trust that Bandai is going to do right by the Hirudegarn players. And Trunks is just very generic. He can go tall in blue, but at the very moment, if you're playing blue, you kind of want to be able to control your match, hinder your opponent's aggression. And so aggro blue, you could just play aggro in different colors. The Tapion 4-drop, the Spirit Boost one, is a very, very, very good addition. But I think that Trunks just tries to do something that that blue isn't, and that kind of makes it weird to sit in the format. Moving past that, you have got now red, which ironically I think is the best color out of the set by far. Gohan is a combo tempo deck, and he's going to be able to go very, very tall, accelerate to the deck. You find one ofs like they were 3 ofs playing it, unless they're in your life. He's got a lot of good things going for him, and there's a couple different ways to build him. I think that Gohan is definitely tier 1.5 to like low tier 1. Only time will tell if things will get better for it, but I definitely think he's actually worthy. There's a couple times where, you know, not seeing the 1-drop or not drawing vanillas can hurt you, and that's why I don't put him directly in tier 1. But when that deck is drawing like even at like a 7 out of 10, he's actually destructive, and he's like very annoying to play against just because of the sheer hand size. When we go to, let's see, Jiren's very linear, but I think also very powerful. And in exchange for his boss card not having any protection, his boss card can come down on turn 3 and start swinging twice for, you know, 35k double strike. And that's actually very, very strong. There are times where you can overwhelm your opponent hard by just like consecutively playing those turn after turn. Xena, I mean, the fact that you can play on your opponent's turn, both Gohan and Jiren can play on your turn or your opponent's turn, is also a huge boon. You're going to be able to either sit back and let your opponent come to you, or you're going to be able to bring the fight to them. And that sort of switch, that tempo switch, is always very good because it's going to reward better players for knowing when to let your opponent push into you and then, you know, crack them and disrupt combos, or when it's going to be best for you to just all out assault them on their turn when you feel that the opening is there. So I think Gohan and Jiren are like around the same. I think Gohan is better than Jiren, but I think they're both like tier 1.5 breaking into tier 1 depending on the format. And you got Starter Deck Vegeta, which is just so cut and dry. The interactions between Kaba and Vegeta are just really disgusting. And then when you look past that, the TP that they released that gets the Kaba makes an almost unbreakable unison setup outside of Supreme Guide Time Space Unraveler. So I think that going into this, red is going to be the best color going into next set. You're still going to have your decks like Baby around, you're still going to have Vegex, you're still going to have Dark Broly, but Dark Broly can get walled by a couple resolutions of Violent Rays, and Vegex can sometimes get walled by things like Vegeta's Imposing Presence with some combo power behind it. So I think next set, red is de facto the best color, just with enough decks that can be played. King Piccolo definitely took an L, but you could still play it. You've got King Vegeta, you've got Gohan, you've got Jiren, you've got Starter Deck Vegeta. Like, red is still going to be a gem next set. And then you're going to have to just figure out how you want to play red, if that's what you want to do. Yellow is kind of weird. I mean, there's some other decks that we can definitely hop back to, but red is going to have to kind of understand itself, or yellow is going to have to reassess itself, because Mecha is not the same. Now that you're not afraid to tap out against Mecha, there's a whole another layer of aggression and speed that Mecha wasn't having to deal with before. Black is still good. You still got Dark Broly, you still got Vegex, you still have Xeno Gogeta. If you don't see any Dark Broly, Sin or Xeno Sin is actually really fun as a deck. So I think there's a lot to go off here, but green is kind of up in the air, and I think blue stays exactly the same. You get some more tools. I'm not even sure if some of those tools fit into Baby, so we're gonna have to see how blue settles in this set. But those are my opinions on how the game is going after set 14. If you disagree with me, let me know in the comments. If you agree with me, let me know in the comments. But I want to get a discussion going. So as I said before, if you like the content, think about hitting that subscribe button, and I will see you guys the next time you decide to join Universe X. Later.